Nah, not that I ever need an excuse to play Paolo Nutini, but I'm playing that this morning because it popped up over the weekend when I was researching my next guests. It was on a Lindy Hop playlist, and Lindy Hop is one of the dance forms taught by Swing Dance Dundalk at their classes in Jocelyn Street. Alan and Lisa McGurk are the instructors there, and they join me on the line now. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Swing track there from Paolo.
Yeah, isn't it? And I always wonder where that came from. I'm a big Paolo fan, but it honestly came out of left field. But I remember a few years ago here when there was lots of these sort of, I suppose, Dancing with the Stars inspired, local competitions. And it was one that was quite popular, so.
It's popular with the Charleston kind of dancing.
Ah, right, okay. Charleston, which brings us to a bit of Lindy Hop, because I understand that Charleston is in there and a lot of other dance forms. Alan, can you tell us a bit about the history of this? Because it dates right back to the 30s.
It does indeed. It goes back to the ballrooms of 1930s New York. And Lindy Hop really was based around dances like the Charleston and other dances, kind of like things like the Black Bottom and Cakewalk, where they were kind of dance hall dances. But they were picked up by, the Savoy Ballroom, and actually they put these dances together and started dancing to big band music. So the likes of kind of Fletcher Henderson and Count Basie and all those kind of band leaders.
Okay. And yourself and Lisa have been, teaching this around Europe for over 30 years now. But obviously, you're not around since the 30s. So how did your interest in it develop?
Well, I'll give you over to Lisa first, because she's kind of the elder statesman of the younger of the two of us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I started dancing in 1995. I don't quite know how it happened. I just found I like the big band music. Found a class that taught to that sort of music, and I was lucky enough to live in an area where Lindy Hop was really big. So we had lots of international teachers coming over for weekends. So I learned from the best. I had lessons with the lovely Frankie Manning, who was just an incredible person. He danced in the 20s and 30s in a group called Whitey's Lindy Hoppers, which feature in the Hells a Poppin' film. Did it for a good few years and then decided that it wasn't making enough money, so he went to work in post office. And then a couple of youngsters from university were researching their black history. And they went and found him, and bless him, they dragged him back to teach around the world and spread the word of Lindy Hop.
And he was in his 70s at this point when he came back. And
that was my next question. My goodness.
Yeah, he was an incredible. He was so humble. He was such a nice man. He didn't understand what all the big fuss was about, because we were so into it, and everybody just couldn't learn enough. He did always chuckle about the lesson side of things, because for them, they learnt from their parents, and they learnt in the kitchen, and they went to the dance halls, and they learnt from each other. So the actual structured lesson thing was a bit like, why don't you just do what he tells you to do?
Well, I somewhere along the line we did lose that, because I can recall as well, and I was born in the 60s. I'm one of the last of the baby boomers, but my own parents used to, we were fascinated when they do, their rock and roll dancing, and they knew all the moves, and it seemed quite choreographed to us, but that was something that everybody did and everybody had the ability to do, and somewhere along the line we lost it.
Yeah, and to be honest, the rock and roll is actually kind of derived from Lindy Hop. It's the GIs that took it to England, really, as part of when they were stationed there. So they brought it with them, and really the rock and roll took off from there. So rock and roll came from Lindy Hop. It's just a kind of watered down version, if you like.
So what was it? And Lisa spoke there was in the 90s that she found classes, and that quite a lot of people were interested in it where she was living. Was that when there was a resurgence? Was there anything in particular that precipitated that, or?
I think it was just when Frankie was found. I think, you know, because we had somebody from the time to show us things, and you know, somebody sat in a room telling you what it was like for him when he was growing up. That you know, blacks and whites not mixing, and you know, it was definitely the black community that did it. But having said that, he said they were always happy to welcome the white people in as long as they could shake their booty, as he would say. So I think because he started to tour around, you know, people got more and more interested in it, and the wider the news spread, you know, it just took off, and then all the other old sort of spin-offs from Lindy Hop have all started to come back. The collegiate shag, the Balboa. So there's a whole load of us doing things that they were doing back in the 20s and 30s.
I love that, the collegiate shag.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can talk about that on air this hour of the day. But anyway, listen, we're going to fast forward then 30 years, and here are yourself and Alan in Dundalk teaching swing dance and Lindy Hop.
Yeah. So really, the idea behind Swing Dance Dundalk was actually Sean Fegan. It was his brainchild, kind of 3 or 4 years ago. And myself and Lisa, we moved here to Ireland in 2019. Mm-hmm. The idea was to retire from the teaching and the dancing, and then Sean found us, and he kind of persuaded us to come out of retirement and kind of try and start building a swing dance community here in the northeast. This is very big in Dublin, and it's very big in Belfast, but there's nothing in between. So we're trying to kind of fill that void and bring people up from Dublin and down from Belfast to kind of to join and share their knowledge and kind of dancing experiences as well. Because the crowd in Dublin, they are very young and they're very enthusiastic, and the energy they put into their dancing down there is just mind blowing. At least we're in our 50s now, and we've done cabaret in the past, and we're thinking, crikey, how did we used to do that?
Yeah. Can I ask a couple of things? Firstly, did you meet through the dancing?
We did.
You did? Okay. And secondly, why did you retire to Ireland?
I've got 1 or 2 or 10 cousins that live locally here.
Okay, yeah. McGurk would be a giveaway, all right.
And my dad's from Cootehill, so we kind of, we sold up in the UK, and we bought a small holding here, so we live in Knockbride East, just the other side of Shercock, and we've got a small holding here, and that's what keeps us busy, apart from the dancing, which is starting to get very busy now.
Okay, so this has been happening in Dundalk. Now, I think you probably, when this first started, we then went into that very unfortunate period where we weren't allowed to dance, we weren't allowed to do anything, we would just stay well away from each other. But thankfully we're out of that now. How much of an interest has there been in town here?
This last week, we started classes up last week, last Tuesday, and the take-up has been very good. Very, very good. Through lockdown, we had people, we did some online classes for people, and then when we started back up again there in Jocelyn Street there, we had people dipping in and out, and I guess people were still very nervous, but I think people now, they seem to be, more confident about
being out and
about again. So it's very good. The new beginners class that we've started, they've had an excellent take-up.
And they did very well as well. They did very well as a class, and they're a good fun bunch. They enjoyed it. We try and make it fun, and it's not too serious, and try and get people laughing and enjoying it, because that's the best way to learn. It makes them relax, and then they learn. So yeah, they were a real good bunch last week. Like you said about lockdown, yes, we managed 1 class before lockdown in 2020. We were just started going, and we were ready for it. And then, as you say, we were all shut in. But yeah, people were good. There's plenty of hand sanitizer and all that sort of thing. But yeah, great bunch of people.
Now, I was looking at some of the Lindy Hop, as I said, just before I came on to chat with you to try and get an idea of what it was about. And to me, it looks like you might need a fair amount of agility to actually be able to keep up with it.
So there's kind of different levels. We teach quite social dancing. You know, a lot of what you see on YouTube is performance Lindy Hop. And so it's designed around looking flash, and it's designed around winning competitions, to be fair. We teach social dancing, so it's actually slower pace. There's no air. You know, there's no lifting people off the ground, that kind of thing. And you can dance it to fairly slow music up to Paolo Nutini kind of speed and quicker. So we do teach social dancing and how to kind of behave on the social dance floor, if you like.
So it's not a million miles an hour. You know, especially when you're learning, you can't learn and do something at a million miles an hour. But you when you're social dancing, you can then decide, yep, we're going to go for it on this one, and you get up and you do your 3 minutes. So as far as lessons concerned, it's not 45 minutes of 1,000 mile an hour aerobic workout. I mean, we do get you moving, we do get you a bit fitter without you realising it, but you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to do it.
Okay, and that sort of answers my question. The next one I have is, because I know Alan spoke there about, you know, there's a very young group in Dublin, and yourself, you've said you're in your 50s, but you're doing this for over 30 years. Is there an age cut off, or, you know, can anybody come along?
No, anybody can come along. Generally, we generally say sort of 16 upwards, age-wise. And I mean, we did have a young lady in the class that came with her mum and her grandma, and she did fabulously.
Of course they do, because they you know, their brains are wired to just
absorb sponges,
aren't they? So she was flying. She was flying along.
And then you know, we've got people. Well, you know, I've taught people, and I still have friends in England that are in their 70s that do it. So, you know, it's not an age barrier thing.
And we've actually been invited along to kind of you know, pensioners' homes in the UK to actually teach them some simple kind of moves, but they actually know the moves because they used to do them as youngsters. So
of course,
you know, a lot of it was bringing back kind of memories that they had when they were youngsters, when they did this kind of dancing. So
yeah, it's open, like I said, it's open to anybody really, sort of 16 and over. We rotate the class, so everybody dances with everybody. It's the best way to learn, especially for I don't want to man bash, but especially for the men. If they stay with their wives, friends, partners, they sort of tend to get a that'll do attitude. Whereas if you're in front of a stranger, you will be trying your best. So we move everybody around. Everyone dances with everybody. So, you know, if you come on your own, you're not paired up with somebody else that's come by themselves and sort of stuck with them all night, if you like. And it also makes it much more social. So that when you do put on a social dance or go to a social event, everyone still dances with everybody. So it makes it a much more friendly environment.
And you know what? It sounds like fun.
Oh yeah, God, absolutely. Yeah, it's so much fun. Everybody's smiling and laughing, and yeah, it's just such a feel-good factor. It's time away from life. You forget about all the things that are going on in your life, and you just enjoy that lesson or that social evening, and yeah, it gives you a break from the big wide world.
I talked to a choir master on Friday, and he was, you know, saying that he'd done some research into the mental health benefits of joining a choir and singing, and that collective singing. And I think there's probably a lot of mental health benefits to something like this as well. So,
oh, definitely, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
My mother's actually got Parkinson's, and she actually goes to kind of these kind of dance and movement classes in England. And it benefits her kind of mobility and her brain really as well. You know, Keeps that kind of active, and it keeps it and thinking and problem solving and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely has its benefits all over, mind and body.
Well, COVID's over as far as I'm concerned. Singing is back, dancing is back, and you guys are down in Jocelyn Street in the Presbyterian Hall.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
We are
Tuesday
indeed.
nights.
Tuesday nights.
7 o'clock.
Yeah. So Swingstyle Dundalk. It's say Sean Fegan is the brains behind it all, but we've got some exciting more plans in the future coming up as well. So watch this space. This is just the start, we think, of a big resurgence in swing dancing.
Okay, and if somebody, particularly if they're a newcomer and they want to go along, it's just on a Tuesday night, turn up at the Presbyterian Hall at 7 o'clock and introduce yourself and take it from there.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. Listen, Alan and Lisa, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you this morning. Thank you so much.
Marissa, thank you for having us.
Right, here's a little bit of Kirsty, Mambo de la Luna.